What is up, everyone? It's Kurt Yazija here, and today is May 10th, Thursday, 2018. Today, I want to talk about one thing that's really going to be personal and professional for me, and that is the move that I'm making to Austin, Texas. I'm going to talk a bit about what I've experienced in life in terms of actually making a move before, and why I'm making the move, and why Austin is really the city that I'm picking for myself and Crush for Ties. So, that being said, hope you had a great start to your weeks and your months of May, and things are really off to a great start. So, Austin, why am I moving? Well, let me take a step back and just speak a little bit about my background. So, I am from Seattle, and my family is here, both my stepmother who raised me, who I call mom, as well as my dad. And I have spent probably about 8 or 9 years actually in the city of Seattle, living in Seattle as an individual. And what I've learned is that living in a city is great. First of all, you get exposure to a lot of great amenities, restaurants, social life tends to be a lot better. You just get better sort of experience living in a city versus being in a suburb. So the first thing I'd say is, for me, cities is my calling. I think suburbs are great. If you're married, you have a family, school districts are important, then you're going to want to move to a suburb, probably outside of a city, because most cities tend to be a little bit more chaotic and you don't get as much space for your family doing that. But for me, I'm single right now in my life, and I am looking to basically build my business, and my priorities right now are being closer to people that I need to be close to and growing myself in the business. So in 2012, I was working for Zillow, and I had an opportunity in that career to move to New York City. I had never been to New York City at that point. I had family on the East Coast from the Boston area, but up until that point, I'd never made a move to another city where I'd lived. I'd lived in Seattle, that's where my career kind of started, and that's had been all that I had ever known. So moving to New York City for Zillow seemed really exciting. I didn't understand how expensive it was going to be and all the logistics and whatnot, but I didn't have a lot holding me back in Seattle to make that move. So I ended up jumping on the opportunity, and I actually made the move to New York. And that period of time, I spent 2 years in Greenwich Village. That period of time living in New York City actually grew me more than probably anything else in my life. I met some of the coolest people. I had some of the biggest inspirations, some of the biggest epiphanies. I learned so much about living in a major city that I just never experienced living in Seattle. And it actually was my inspiration came when I was living in New York, when I met a friend through a friend who I never would have encountered had I not been in New York, who really inspired me to make the move into the digital marketing space. This was a younger guy. He had a lot of success. He had been working for himself for many years at that point, and he was gracious enough to really encourage me and inspire me to actually make the move myself. And so that really got me started. That, and as I was approaching the age of 30 at the time, I was in my late 20s, I knew deep down I wanted to do something, but like a lot of people, I struggled with making a decision on what it was going to be. And I think in life, you just have to make those decisions. And I've talked about this before in other videos and podcasts, as well as in my writing, that making decisions is really, really important to do. And it's what moves the ball forward in your life. But it's oftentimes very difficult because you're stuck with all these options and you don't want to make too many of the wrong ones. And in today's life, there's so much freedom, which is a great thing, but it also creates a lot of stress and chaos in terms of what you want to do. Because if you were growing up 50 years ago, you might have had three things to do: become a doctor, work at the factory, building cars, go and become a construction worker, whatever. You had those simple options. It's like, okay, what do I want to do? What makes the most sense? And boom, you pick your career, you go on it. Now, literally, you can do anything with the internet. You can do anything with digital design. And in a business where I run, there's no framework. So if you think about entrepreneurship, there are different models. You can go down the career path of actually starting a company in a network marketing structure where you still become an LLC of your own, but you actually work within the framework. So there's a product that's created, there's a sales process, and now basically what you are is you're a sales guy. You're a sales guy working with a proven formula to generate business. And you see this a lot in like real estate and network marketing and different types of things like that. But when you're creating a digital agency where all you know is you pretty much need to know how to do marketing in a digital realm, but you haven't created a product yet, you don't have necessarily customers or partners, there's just a lot of like flexibility in that. And so it's decision overload. You got to decide about everything. There's no, oh, you're going to sell a house. No, it's like you could sell anything. You could sell branding, you could sell performance, you could create banners, you could create videos, you could create carousel ads. So, anyways, my point here on that long tangent is that you have to make a decision. And you have to put a definition behind the decision. You have to put a timeline behind the decision. If you don't do that, you're not going to get where you want to go in life. In fact, you're probably going to have a lousy life because you're going to be doing the same things and you're going to be stuck in indecision, which is probably one of the worst places to be. So I moved to New York. I was inspired. I learned a ton. New York City is an awesome city. The reason I'm choosing Austin is because I have been fortunate enough to have the opportunity to travel to a lot of cities. When I was at Zillow, I was in travel sales for about 2.5 years. And there were periods of time where I was getting 80,000 travel miles on my Delta account. And I was zipping around every 2 or 3 weeks a month and going to new places. And I got to stay in the cities and I took advantage of it. I actually stayed for the weekends. And what I found was that through all the places I went in the country, through all the places that I had actually traveled to, my favorite places were New York City, Los Angeles, like the Santa Monica, Venice area, and then specifically Austin, Texas. I like Denver too. I think Denver's a runner-up. But in general, when I'm thinking about a combination that fits my needs and my lifestyle and also gets me closer to the people, because proximity is power, that are influencers, are making waves in the space of the business segment I want to get into, Austin and really like Santa Monica, Venice, those places are the two biggest spots for me. I think New York has a lot that you just get everything in New York. So, but I've lived in New York, and for me, the weather in New York is just not conducive to my lifestyle. I don't like the winters there. You can't really go skiing when you're there. You're buried by a blizzard a lot of times. So I don't like New York for the weather. It's also very dirty. It's also just a grind to live there. You're dealing with BS all the time. Your grocery shopping will take you at least 30 minutes to get through the line oftentimes, just if you do that. So, you kind of don't grocery shop and you eat out a lot or you find other ways. But the thing is, I want to experience something new. And what I really liked about Austin is it's a smaller city than Seattle. It's very much booming in terms of growth and what's going on. It's the capital of Texas. They really take care of the city. It is a very clean, health-conscious city with great weather the majority of the year. You're going to have a lot of heat in July and August. It's going to get up into the hundreds, but it isn't as humid as being on the East Coast. And it's clean. It's relatively flat with rolling hills. You have a lot of green there. There's a lot of trees. And it is just a fun city. There's a lot of things to do outside. A lot of the restaurants, a lot of the bars are designed with open air kind of patio seating. And it feels like you're kind of on vacation while you're there. And you can get that experience. You can go out. Seattle, you don't get that. You're pretty much inside 8 months a year. And Seattle's great. I'm not knocking it. It's just you don't get that sort of outdoorsy, like you're on vacation in Mexico kind of feel. And you get that in Austin. You can get electric scooters, you can get electric bikes, you can zip around. For me, that's a lot of fun. I had a bike in New York City and I took advantage of the spring and early fall and dipped around the city. And I got to see a lot of the city and just get out and about. And I love that. And the bar scene is great. I don't go out as much as I used to. It's not really a priority in my life. But what I do find is when I do go out, I want to have good time. I want to have good vibes. And it just doesn't, there's nothing really, unless you're in a major city with a lot of good stuff going on, I've found personally that's hard to find those kind of opportunities. So in Austin, there is a plethora of opportunity there. The food is fantastic. I'm a big fan of tacos, Tex-Mex. I really like the Whole Foods headquarters there, that whole health food conscious center. They've got like the acai bowls, the juices, the yoga. Like it's kind of like a hippie vegan health center. And then there's this tech boom that's in there. And there's a lot of marketers that do what we do in digital marketing that are down there. And so for me, it makes a ton of sense. It's not going to be easy to move. I've got a studio here. I've got a big server setup with 25, 30 networks built out custom in our office. I've got a team of 6 people, all of us, that are going to have to move our lives down there. But I know that the move is worth it, and it's time now. We've got a stable business. We're making the moves right now where we need to make that move. So if you've been thinking about a city, just remember, you're not a tree. You can always move. It might be a little bit less comfortable if you're not as prepared financially or with your life emotionally to make the move. But what I would say is that when you make moves, and you make a move that, in this case, we're moving 2,000 miles away from where we are to a new place, that really shakes up your existence. That shakes up what you had before in a good way. It kind of disconnects you. You get to unplug and reset. It's like playing a video game and you just hit the restart and you're like, okay. Sometimes like you're going down the level and things are just kind of like getting heavier and heavier and harder and you're not where you want it to be. And then you just restart the game and like, boom, it's like fresh. So we've got good things happening. I'm really excited about Austin. It has a great combination of people, weather, food, lifestyle for me, being outdoors, having a warm winter, having a lot of sunshine, and I'm just looking forward to that. And one thing I'll add to that too is that the people, I have noticed a direct correlation, especially in Austin, with the weather and how it affects the way the people are. And that mood sort of translates into the sort of the community. In Austin, you're gonna find people so friendly. You just walk around, you can talk to strangers talk to you. They just open up. People are really nice. In Seattle, they have this thing called the Seattle Freeze, and it's a real thing. People here they're just not used to interacting with strangers. They don't go outside as much. They're not as social. And yeah, it affects them. It affects their psychology, their emotional being, and it's just not as fun. So I want a life that's fun, fulfilling, and rich, and has a lot of diversity. And I think Austin can really offer that in this next phase of building Crush for Ties and where I want to go. So I hope that this was valuable to you. If you're thinking about moving, I'd love to hear more about your thoughts. And if you've made a major move, I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Until next time, stay tuned and keep crushing. Thanks a lot.